Hello, Adam.
Hi,
Hello.
are you looking bright and cheerful this morning?
Yeah, I'm good. How are you?
Good, yeah. I've had my 2 cups of coffee, so I'm surfacing.
So you ready to go?
I'm ready to go. Always ready to go. Born ready, that's me.
Okay, so we're going to talk about the remedy,
Yeah,
the superluminal mix.
yeah.
So I don't know if you want to start talking or if you'd like me to introduce it or where we should start with that.
Um, yeah, well, I'd just like to start with, I mean, I took it last night, yeah, and it's one thing making up a remedy with the individual parts, and then another thing in how they synergize and work together. And I mean, it's somewhat inconceivable until you actually take it. And I took it last night, and I just like to recount something of it because I've got a taste of how it's working, and it might help people in working with it. It is, as you said, it is quite weird. It's quite strong because we're including the salvia, the aya, and the psilocybin, and the nairal. So it's a big creation. This, I think, let's all acknowledge that now because it's doing a lot on a lot of different levels. I mean, any of those plants by themselves are full creatures in themselves. So to combine them all is it's a big ask on the body. It's like you're being asked to deal with stuff in Angola and Mozambique and Malawi and Tanzania and America and Germany at the same time.
Right.
And how your body reacts to that is like, whoa, where do I actually focus my energy or my intent? So it's important to remember that if people are feeling a bit like, wow, this is quite strong. Strong is good. Strong is means that it'll do the work, but it might be a bit strange. And I'm just asking people to embrace the strangeness of it as I've had to do and look at where it's going. Even if we can't understand where it's going, understand that it is doing the work and it is bringing stuff to light. But I just like to recount a dream I had last night, which kind of gives me some take on what it's doing or how it's working. It's in the dream. I had two separate instances of two people who were very close to me at one point, and they both betrayed me in different ways. And I've always held a lot of sort of love, anger towards both these individuals, and both of them were in the dream, and I was engaging creatively with both of them. One of them was telling me how he was writing a book, and I was sort of mentoring him through that, and the other one was drawing. He was an artist who was drawing cartoons, but enlightenment cartoons, and I was engaging positively with him, whereas both these people who I'd left on very bad terms with, and I've kind of through the years played out different scenarios of engagement with them, but this time it felt a lot more positive, like I was laying that all to rest, that I could actually now, although I won't engage them again, but energetically it was clear that I had done my karma with them and I could engage positively with them. And this is, I mean, it's quite a big thing to have both these individuals who are big players in my life appear in one night. So, and to have the same kind of positive interaction with them. Now, what everyone else's response to this remedy is going to be, God only knows. I can't even begin to imagine. But, well, what I'm saying here is don't expect anything, because whatever you expect, it's not going to be that. And B, just allow the space for anything to occur, because we are rebirthing something new, and in that state, birth is not always a pleasant process, especially for either the baby or the mother, and this is really what's occurring. It doesn't have to be unpleasant, but any preconceptions we have of it are probably going to be wrong. And yeah, I took it in the evening, and I felt a bit strange, and I had to deal with my daughter and whatnot, and then when I fell asleep, it kind of all fitted together, and it might be a remedy that's best processed in sleep, because the stuff of the day, you know, I mean, let's talk about the individual components now, because for me, the salvia, which is generally taken, you lie down, you have visions of the future. Aya as well, you take it, you lie down, you have visions of whatever you have visions of. And the psilocybin, they're all quite passive things in their own way. It's not like San Pedro where you're running up a hill. It's like you allow it to do you, to permeate you. And so for me, possibly, and this is just a suggestion, everyone must play with it as they feel the calling, but possibly best to deal with a lot of the stuff in dreams to allow that to play out so that we can function normally day to day. It is possible to function on this remedy in the day, but you know, some people have jobs they have to hold down, and oh, it's all right. I mean, it's not. I could see my patience with this, but it would be a little bit challenging. So just bear that in mind with us. So,
Right.
I mean, with that, I don't know if you want to say anything, or I can actually go into the structure of the remedy now. Do you want to have any say on what you?
Yeah, I mean, I just to kind of, I suppose, go over the intent that, in a way, the remedies, making up these remedies as we go along, just based on a kind of calling or an intuition of something, or just even a pure adventure, you know, is kind of part of what I feel is part of what we're doing to rebirth the new, you know, paradigm, because we don't know what it is yet. It doesn't really exist yet. So we're busy unfolding it.
Yes.
And so we go into it, and we, like you say, we do our best to stay present with the process and use our intuition to see which is the best way to go about it. And yeah, so that deep listening, I really think, is called.
You know, I mean, the reason I put the amniotic fluid in is that's like the capsule. So in the amniotic fluid, we allow all this alchemical stuff to happen to us, and we get reborn in this liquid. I mean, I joke about the amniotic fluid as being like the 5-star float tank. And often when I don't have time out, I'll take some amniotic fluid just to allow myself to rest while I'm doing what I'm normally doing, just to give myself time out when I can't have time out. But it's an incubator. It's a space in which new life can be formed. I mean, with the Nayarao, the strong version, the Omni version of that, it really is about upgrading one's capacity. And the first time I took the Nayarao, what happened to me is I felt like my energy field from here went to here, so I could take on more. It gave me greater capacity. So with greater capacity gives us greater ability to take on more things, or to engage more things without struggle or effort. And part of that, the new paradigm, the crystalline nature of things, is the Apache tears. Now, the Apache tears is made from sand, which is molten in a volcano, and then the volcano spits it out and it runs down the side, and people collect it as molten glass. The Apache tears itself, when you cut it, it's supposed to produce the strongest point in existence, the sharpest point. It'll cut literally through molecules. It's that sharp. The legend goes that when the Apaches went off to war, and they all died, the woman wept tears of molten glass, and those were the Apache tears. But it's been used for arrowheads, for axes, for... Yeah, I mean, what it is, homeopathically, silica is your identity. It's number 14 on the periodic table. So when you think of 14, it is your identity in the world. You've gone through puberty, you're now 14, and you're dealing with who you are in relation to society. Like, how do you fit into the society? You're not dealing so much with your identity as you would be at, say, 6, but you're dealing with who am I and how do I fit into the bigger picture of all these other people running around, and social structures and school structures and whatnot. And the Apache tears, because it's gone through the volcanic process, been burnt, it's almost the perfection of this. So it's like, where the silica itself has a lot of neurotic stuff, the Apache tears is like, well, this is me in relation to my environment, in relation to society, and I'm going to cut my way through it effortlessly, because I have the sharpness, and I've gone through the fires of dissolution, and I've brought myself to a greater understanding. I mean, the first time I took the Apache tears, I noticed I was sitting up much straighter. Like, my posture actually improved. It gave me the sense of like upright. So there I am in the world, presenting to the world. Of course, silica is also constitutional for Sagittarius, so Apache tears has a lot of affinity with Sagittarius as well, but it will have a lot of affinity with people, because every time we go out into the world, we're making a statement about who we are. We're being asked to reinvent ourselves and say, well, who do I want to be today, or how do I want to present today? Like, what face do I want to show to the world? And if this state is a fluid state, a liquid state, it allows us to shift seamlessly from, from brother to father to friend to work to whatever, without there being any conflict between these paradigms. And there shouldn't be, because we are fluid by nature, and this just allows the fluidity to take place. So that's the beauty of the Apache tears. The protea nectar I only recently made, and it's literally the nectar from a protea. When we were collecting it, we poured it into our hands, and it's like the super sweet nectar. And then when I thought about the Bach flower remedies, you take a flower and you put it in water, and then the sun infuses it, but you're capturing the death of the plant, because it goes into the liquid, and that's its final moment. You're capturing its moment of death, whereas these live nectars, you're capturing the life of the plant. So that's in there as well. I mean, the protea is very much like the South African lotus, the 1,000 petals on top. So it's the skills as well, but it's the nectar from which, honey is made and the baby bees get fed. So it really is the distillation of earth and sky, and the meeting of the two, and the fusion with the sun, and the infusion with the sun. So, I mean, it's quite a beautiful thing, the whole nectar concept as a live plant remedy technology. So that's in there as well. The Naira, I mean, Kelsey's spoken about that at more length, and everyone has to figure out their dance with that one. It is a bioluminescent tree that shines in the middle of the jungle, and it's almost like this mystical thing, this holy grail one stumbles upon, or not. I mean, people thought it was gone for many years. They thought it had gone extinct, and a lot of the shamans in Peru actually believed it was a myth until it was refound. So it has this grail quality, like seeking for it that's not there, and then only the worthy get it. And Kelsey's story about how he got it and had to be purified in order to bring it to me is very much like a grail quest. That's how I saw it. It was like his own personal journey into darkness to get this substance, to bring it to me. Then he got mugged and all this stuff got stolen. It was like that he couldn't get it out the country, and eventually it came to me, and now it comes to everyone else. So this is a very in the heart of darkness that's been brought out, and it's not to be shared with people. So that's very exciting. I mean, to actually even describe how it works, I ask everyone, like, how does this actually work? And everyone comes up with, no one can really give me a good, one-liner about. There's talk of the universal upgrade, the flying tree, the, greater capacity, but it's such a strange thing. The first time I took it, I couldn't really put my finger on what it did. I knew it was doing something, but even having the words to describe what it did, the words disappeared. So, yeah, so those are the ingredients in the mix. I mean, let's just talk about the three medicinal plants quickly, because they're huge themselves. Okay. I mean, I've aligned them to like maiden mother crone, salvia being the crone. I mean, the vision I have of salvia is you go into the forest to ask the witch for like a spell to make you more, I don't know, rich or beautiful or happy or something, and she turns you into a toad instead. And then you have to sit as the toad for like 50 years, be the toad, and realize that, okay, that is the breaking of the fixation on beauty, and then you get turned back into yourself. And this is very much what happens with salvia. In practice, people have visions of themselves being a fly on the wall or a blanket on a bed, and they don't know that this is not going to last for eternity. So they're lying on the bed as the rug, and they're like, I can't move, but I don't like the pattern of myself. And that's the learning, that the pattern is themselves. Salvia is also the vision of the future. It gives you a vision of the future, and then it says, well, do you want it to be like this, or do you want to change it? It gives you the chance to change what might be by giving you the vision of it. I remember I had a vision of my roof blowing off, and I realized that if I didn't do anything about the roof, it was going to blow off. So I did something about the roof. Now I sleep calmly. But the final vision I got from salvia when I did like a 9-day dieta on it was being eaten by worms. And when I woke up, total fear, I was being consumed by the worms. And so I worked to that. I visualized myself being eaten by the worms all day until that fear was gone. And then there was like a deep weight lifted of this kind of infantile fear of like, oh, I'm going to die, or I'm going to be alive, I'm going to be eaten by worms. And realizing that was sitting at the base of my being, informing some of my decisions and driving fear on certain levels. So it was very valuable. But my point with salvia, it's a very strange plant. To even understand it on any level is very difficult. It's the wise old woman, but she's also the crone who will chew your head off if she doesn't like you. So there's that aspect. So you go asking for something and she'll give you what she thinks you need as opposed to what you might want. The ayahuasca, I mean, people know quite a lot about ayahuasca. I mean, the three potencies in there are not as strong as they are in the shamanic six-pack, because we wanted to emphasize the Nayarao as the new paradigm, the rebirth. The ayahuasca, I mean, I don't know if I even need to say that much about it, but it's the aspect of the mother. Whenever I take ayahuasca, I have these long relationship discussions with myself, and so, oh God, do we have to discuss this again? It's that level for me, but a lot of people get a lot from it. As I said, these are less strong than the normal shamanic six-pack versions, because we're asking a lot here, we're putting a lot in this bottle. Some is supportive, like the amniotic fluid is there to nourish, the protea is there to nourish, the Apache tears is there to redefine, but those three plants, the maiden, the mother, and the crone, are there to do the work. And as you said, this is the work of the feminine, rebirthing itself in a new paradigm as whatever it is you want it to be. And that, I think, that is possibly the question that people really need to ask here of themselves, is like, what do you really want to be reborn into? Like, what is important for you at this stage in terms of your highest good? Like, what will benefit you and the rest of existence at this point to be? Not the infantile, like, oh, I want to be more beautiful, I want more money, I want more da-da-da-da-da. It's like, well, what will actually make you happy long term? And this is one of the gifts that salvia will give. It'll show you that, even if you don't like what it is. But that's what I'm saying with this particular remedy, because it's such a mix of frequencies, to be very, very open on what's coming. And the strangeness of it might be the shift. As one shifts through into a different space, whenever we move into a new space, there's always a sense of uncomfortableness or strangeness because the body doesn't quite recognize it. But that's what I'm saying, was just trust the process, because all the players in this remedy are very powerful, but very impeccable in their own way, and they will look after you. The mushrooms can get a bit tweaky. I've had some really weird mushroom experiences before. I mean, I'll just relate one, just to give you an idea of where the mushrooms can go. Because some people report like, oh, happy, fun, but then I had this one vision, I was in heaven, but I was rotting. I was rotting in heaven, and I had to go outside and build a big fire to like clear that away. So it was like, here's the heaven, but like if you get stuck there, you'll rot. So once again, a ruthless teacher, and combining the three in one bottle. When you approached me with this, I was like, okay, that's quite bold, but fearlessly we enter the void. And this is the case of fearlessly we enter the void and see what comes of it. If people feel that it's too much, they can do it every second day. I personally would do it in the evening, because then you have more time to process. The day's kind of over. But I mean, people would do it during the day, but possibly alternate it. There's room for both. And as you go through this remedy, I think it will change as well, because the first meeting with a new substance is always can be quite jarring, because it's a new state we're coming into. But as we become used to it, it's easier for us to work with it. It becomes more familiar, and then we can actually start to play with it. But it's a great remedy to work with intent, because there's a lot of big players there, and it's held by the amniotic fluid, which for me is just, when I got this amniotic fluid 2 years ago, I was like, wow, to actually be able to generate externally that state of being completely nourished and sitting in a space where you don't have any concerns. Your food's taken care of, your bodily functions are taken care of, your warmth is taken care of. You can literally just sit. It's kind of like the float tank, but in the float tank, you're sitting there and it's still a bit uncomfortable, and sometimes it gets a bit cold, and there's no food, and there's the smell of the Epsom salts. So it's not really, that's why I say a 5-star float tank, but a state where you can just literally lie back and everything will be taken care of for you. And sometimes we just need that space of nourishment, of relaxation, to actually give us the downtime that we can't take normally because of our hectic lifestyles. So that's the space that all these substances are being born into, and that's the crucible in which this is all occurring.
Okay. Yeah, that's right. So yeah, I think what we'll do is we'll just let the group and the flow unfold itself and just see where it's going and how we're doing, and kind of just let the process do its work.
Mm, mm,
Whatever
mm, mm,
the enlightenment is that must come from it
mm, mm.
for everybody.
Yeah,
And yeah, I think if people do find it too much, then alternate, every second day or
yeah,
something like that,
yeah,
for sure.
yeah. But I mean, it's almost like it's asking us to embrace the weird, if you know what I mean. It's like, yes, this is a weird space. Yes, I don't understand it, but trust the process and embrace it and say, okay, well, let's see where this goes. I know that all the pieces in the puzzle are for one's higher good and will benefit me in inconceivable ways, but just to surrender to that, like as the baby in the womb surrenders to the process of being fed, being looked after, it doesn't even think about it. But when you think about it, to come from that into the world is a very.
Are you still there? It looks like maybe Adam's electricity went into load shedding. Anyway, so that's the end of our. Oh, here we go. It's online again. Yeah, how do I answer? Yeah. Hello? Hello?